Today, world leaders are arriving in Paris for the UN conference on climate change. It's being billed as potentially one of the most important global meetings in years. Leaders from around 150 countries are involved, including David Cameron, Barack Obama and Vladimir Putin. The last major climate talks in 2009 ended without meaningful agreement, but this time hopes are high that a deal can be done. Mark Meyrick is the Director of Trading and Origination from Chippenham-based company Good Energy. He'll be going to the conference on Wednesday. It's not the first one you've been to, Mark. What are they like?
That's right. Well, they're a massive coming together of all sorts of people. You've got government representatives, a lot of NGOs with little side events about ocean acidification, gender issues, and then there's a lot of people from the more financial areas of the market who are really trying to make sure we get finance into climate change action. So it's a real array of different players. And
what do you get out of it? Why are you going?
I'm going really because we want to help try and influence through the groups we work with the move towards a greener, cleaner economy. Good Energy is obviously committed to renewable energy, and we want renewable energy to be high on the agenda of any new actions that are taken going forward for the world at large and not just in Europe.
How much progress normally gets made at these conferences?
I don't think there's a norm, that's the thing, and it's quite interesting that people sort of seem to think that the last major climate talks were in 2009 in Copenhagen. There's one every year, and we're now, as you can see, it's called COP21 because there's been 21 since the original Kyoto Protocol, and each of them sort of incrementally or sometimes substantially make changes to how we're going to address climate change going forward. And the reason this one is billed as being so big is because, as John Prescott was just saying, things didn't go well there, and there's been so much more preparation done for this one in which they think that we'll be able to move forward. So this one, we're really hoping for some substantial progress that encompasses the world at large.
So interesting to hear you talk about incremental change that happens at each of them. So they all do make progress.
Absolutely.
What kind of progress are we hoping will be made this time? What sort of a leap might we take?
This is a unique one because it's the first one in which we're going to be trying for pledges from everybody. There's about 185 nations have made pledges what they're going to do to either mitigate to mitigate climate change, which is unique because in the original Kyoto Protocol, the only people who made any commitments to reduce greenhouse gas emissions were pretty much the OECD countries, whereas now we've realised that we've got a global problem, and even developing countries need to try and think what they're going to do. So these pledges are going to state which amounts of greenhouse gases and what actions each country is going to take across the world, and some will be bigger than others depending on the financial resources countries have and depending on, of course, their carbon footprint.
Of course, we have seen pledges made before, Kyoto being a good example, that were then not met, disregarded, you could even argue, by North America, who didn't stick to their Kyoto agreement. So what good are pledges?
That's a really good question, and this is the thing that we're all going to be watching with bated breath, but for the end of it next week, because if you can't meet treaty commitments, what good are pledges? But the fact is that even when you make a treaty commitment, there's no kind of legal stick you can be beaten with as Kyoto proved. So one would hope that the pledges, whilst they're not a treaty obligation as such with firm targets, will be a unified action amongst countries, because these pledges come with a review system as well. So with the UNFCCC, the United Nations body that oversees this, looking at people's pledges and looking at their progress against pledges every 5 years, it's hoped that there'll be a sort of a joint effort that people will really try and meet because of in their role as a global citizen, if you like.
So we're hoping that because so many more people are engaged in it, countries will be embarrassed to drop their pledges.
Yeah, that's absolutely a perfect way of putting it. You're kind of trying to work on embarrassment in this. And we have a number of treaties for all sorts of things like waste, water, ozone gases. So it's not new to have global efforts to try and address an environmental problem. So yes, that embarrassment factor and the way of acting as a global citizen is what we hope will take us forward.
For you personally, what are you most looking forward to about your own visit to Paris?
I always like going to some of the other side events. I mean, I'm very interested in reduced deforestation. I'll be going to a weekend of that in between the 2 weeks. I will catch up with the carbon community and see really what the groundswell of opinion is. So it's a chance really to network with some of our colleagues, and I'll try and get in and see some of the negotiating sessions, but it got to be said, the negotiating sessions are incredibly dry when you see them just arguing over where an and should be or a but should be. So they're not the most sort of dynamic sessions to be part of.
The fact that so many nations are involved in COP21 must fill you with some hope for not just the planet but for your own business. The fact that green energy is looking so buoyant must fill you with hope, or do you think it's just a gloss, a facade?
I don't think it's a gloss or a facade, but I've learned to be cautious in my optimism over the years in this arena. I do think it's the only logical way forward is that we have to decarbonise our economies. I like the fact that everybody comes together and there's then a real exchange of ideas. And the whole idea, I think, about agreements like this is it enables technology transfer from the countries which can develop the new ways of environmental technologies to countries which don't have the money. So finance is a really important part of this whole agreement. We have to work out how we can finance clean development in the developing world. We have to have clear accounting structures so that everyone can sort of say, look, this is how we're measuring our emissions. Yeah, that's very credible. And here's our bit of paper with what we've done. So I'm optimistic, but cautious.
Mark Meyrick, thank you very much for joining us this morning from Chippenham-based company Good Energy.